doctors are not taught in medical school, I know because I am one, how to keep people out of the office, out of the hospital, and healthy. Why is that? Well, let's be honest and think about how doctors are paid. It's called fee for service.
You're listening to Wake Up and Read the Labels, your guide to eating simple and feeling good. If you want to eat clean and feel your best, guess what? You're in the right place. Each week, we talk about ingredients that may be holding you back from feeling your best. We also talk to some brands that are going against the grain and actually using real ingredients we can recognize. Plus, we're sharing stories with people who are just like you, who actually woke up and read the labels. Welcome to Wake Up and Read the Labels podcast. Today, I'm going to be talking to a dual board-certified physician and healthcare innovator that is pretty viral online. Her name is Dr. Tania Elliot, and you can find her on social media. Everything will be linked below, but I'm looking forward to seeing how do we actually live in a world where you can't touch your receipt, that you shouldn't make your bed in the morning, and all the other things that she's posting. What's up, Doctor? Do you want me to go by Dr. Tania or Elliot?
Call me Dr. Tania, yeah.
Okay, Dr. Tania. So nice to meet you. So tell me, what kind of doctor you are, what do you practice? Also, what made you kind of, get on the internet and share these things with the world?
Sure. So I'm dual board certified internal medicine and allergy and immunology. And my career's been really interesting. I really call myself a health innovator because before telehealth and interacting through video modalities and stuff was a thing, I had adopted it. And this was back in 2013. And it all sort of started from, I was in private practice as an allergist, and I literally kept asking people when they came into my office what their house looked like. And I'm like, this is so inefficient. I'm like, so tell me what your bedroom looks like. And do you have a carpeting? And do you have a humidifier? And how old is your ventilation system? And people don't remember stuff, and they don't know what I'm looking for. But as an allergist, I'm trying to identify their triggers, because the first line of treatment for an allergic disease is avoidance of triggers. So I don't want to just give medications to mask symptoms. I want to identify and get to the root cause and understand what your triggers are. And oftentimes those triggers start in the home or in the workplace. So I just found it so inefficient. I remember we used to give people a little piece of paper that had this is your living room and this is your bedroom. Now circle where you have carpets. And I'm
wow. Antiquated.
Yeah. So I was like, I know, I want to Skype with people and Skype and see people Skype. Remember Skype? And so I literally thought of doing video tours of people's homes to help them identify their triggers. And kind of serendipitously came across a company called Doctor On Demand. That was the first company. It was actually started by Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil, the TV show host, him and his son. They created this app where you can write in your symptoms and then click a button and then connect with a doctor. The doctor popped up on the other side of the screen, kind of I don't know if you remember Bewitched, but Samantha from Bewitched, the doctor would be like, hello, here I am. And it was really neat and interesting. So I really got into telehealth. This was, like I said, 12 years ago. And then I also really enjoyed interacting with patients. And I'm like, I'm on video. Look at me. And I learned what I looked like on camera and on video. And I learned how to effectively communicate with people through video. And it was a totally different skill than you would need in the office. I called it webside manner as opposed to bedside manner, and trained hundreds and hundreds of doctors on how to deliver care through this modality. And so the social media piece, coming back to your question 10 minutes later.
I love it. That's what you want in a podcast guest, by the way.
It's how can I create videos? How can I create engaging video content to empower people to live healthier lives, to let them feel like they're kind of part of my life and I'm in their home too, and leveraging sort of all of these video speaking skills that I've gained over the course of the last 12 years as I've been a healthcare innovator and a healthcare executive, and teaching doctors how to be effective on camera.
This is great. Okay, so you are posting things on Instagram. And based off of like what I'm seeing, right? You're telling people don't touch receipts. You shouldn't make your bed when you get out of you shouldn't make your bed when you wake up in the morning, which if you want to answer those questions, that would be great. But like, is that what you're teaching as well with your patients?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So I'm on multiple platforms. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm going to launch Substack soon, which will be a little bit more in depth for people that like want to get into it. Like, what the heck is going on with perimenopause and my hormones? What the heck kind of supplements should I be taking? When should I be taking them? What should I be taking them with? What's legit? What's not legit? Like, stuff's so confusing. So for people who want to geek out with me and be like with Dr. Tanya Unfiltered, I'll be on Substack in the next couple of weeks. Um, so here's the thing about my content, like, don't touch receipts, don't do this, don't make your bed, right? We all know as it relates to content, you need to have a hook and it's got to be a viral hook. Underneath all of that, though, the real message is awareness of things that could be impacting your health in a negative way. And you just wouldn't even think about it and you just wouldn't even realize it. Um, and then it's also a little bit of like, hey, like there are a whole bunch of dangerous things out there, right? And everyone knows you get a lot of views for things that are fear mongering and blah, blah, blah. And I'm absolutely not that. But I do think it's important for us to understand like, here's all of the stuff that could be dangerous for my health. What is my tolerance level? Versus, oh my gosh, I didn't even know that I was doing this and it was harming my health or it was harming my children's health. I just thought I was lighting a scented candle and like it was making my home smell nice and cozy. And I didn't realize it was triggering my child's asthma. You know, so like the way to get people's attention is to do things that are like a little bit dramatic. But underneath all of that really is the key importance of awareness and then like, okay, well, I'm willing to make that change, or I didn't even realize that, or you know what, I'm not willing to do that. Like, I'm going to keep doing things this way. And then, but just, understanding there's a little bit of a risk associated with it. And I would say if people were like, nope, I'm still going to do things this way, that like they could be putting themselves at risk. Maybe if they're like, hey, you know what, I like making my bed in the morning. Okay, well, that's one of the things that Dr. Tanya said that like I maybe don't agree with, or that's beyond my tolerance level.
Clean eating is confusing. Let's make it simple. I got you covered with my new Read the Labels app. Just head to the App Store, search for Read the Labels app, and start scanning your groceries to see if they're clean or not clean. Why should someone reconsider making their bed when they wake up in the morning?
So it's just a first thing in the morning thing. But if you think about it, and this is the other piece of just like if you actually start to think about it, you're like, oh, that is kind of gross, right? We just slept all night. You may have slept with wet hair, which is another thing I tell people not to do. Don't go to bed with wet hair because then you end up with like a breeding ground for mold and people wonder why they have dandruff, and it's because they're going ahead with bed with wet hair. Okay, so we go to bed. Some people don't shower at night, which is another thing I say, make sure you shower at night because otherwise you're just bringing in all of the junk from the day. I wish we had like a black light that we could put on our skin and see what was all over our bodies. We go to sleep. Sometimes people are not wearing pajamas. Sometimes they're doing other things in bed, right? There's lots of things happening. There's bodily fluids, there's sweat, there's dead skin cells and all these things that are sloughing off, right? We might fart in the middle of the night, let's be honest, right? Or maybe it's our partner's fault, whatever, no judgments. And then you get up and all of that stuff has just come off of the bed and then, off of you onto the bed in the middle of the night. And then you wake up and you're like, let me make my bed now. And let me just lock all that stuff in real nice and good, right? Like, that's disgusting. So just wait a couple of hours. Just wait and, get up, wash up first, like just let it air out. I tell people also like open up the windows, let the sun's rays come down on the bed a little, just air it out a little bit. Like we don't need to just be like, boom, and then lock it in. And there was a study that was done. This was back in 2017. It was a British study that showed that making your bed can actually make dust mite allergy worse. They said that you actually lock in the dust mites when you make your bed really tight, right? And then again, it's a perfect breeding ground. There's all that moisture. It's those dead skin cells. That's what they live off of. And there you go. You've now created a perfect cozy breeding ground for dust mites.
Oh yeah, my kids are gonna love to hear this one. I'd be like, "See, mom, see, this is reasons for argument." Okay, Tell me what about like dehumidifiers, or what should people be using to freshen their home? Because I know we mentioned, or you briefly mentioned, people spraying these synthetic fragrances in their house with parabens and things that can cause havoc on your hormones. Let's kind of dive into that to give people some options.
Yes. And I just released a healthy home guide that you can find on my website where I walk you through room by room the do's and don'ts and then the science behind it. So it's not just all fear mongering. It links you to clinical studies, it links you to videos where you can learn more. But let's talk about humidifier versus dehumidifier, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Here's what I'm trying to get people to avoid. You have a kid who seems to be sick all winter long. So you put a humidifier in their room and they're not getting better and they're not getting better and they're not getting better. And it turns out that they have an undiagnosed dust mite allergy. And so the entire time that you've been putting the humidifier in the room, you're increasing the humidity level in their room to greater than 50%. And dust mites need moisture to survive. So you're creating a breeding ground for dust mites. Those dust mites are living with their stuffed and the kids' stuffed animals and in their bedding and everything. And so even if you're like, oh, well, I have dust mite proof covers, like you're not thinking about all the stuffies that are in your kid's room and all the other things that could be harboring dust mite. And I see this oftentimes in my practice where we test the kid and they're highly allergic to dust mite. And I say, take the humidifier out of the room. You need a dehumidifier in your home. And then all of a sudden their symptoms get better. So for people with indoor mold and dust mite allergies, you want to keep the humidity level in your home between 20% and 50%. A lot of times people are like, oh, I'm so dry, I'm so congested, I'm going to grab a humidifier. And then they're actually all congested because of an undiagnosed mold or dust mite allergy. And the humidifier is like throwing like oil onto a flame and making it worse. So that's an important piece. Um, Having a humidity gauge, which you can get on Amazon for like $5 or $6, can tell you what your humidity level is. And it's also important to note that um, certain parts of the country don't have an issue with high humidity levels, right? So it's like there is no dust mite allergy in Colorado because it's too dry and arid. So we have to like recognize and acknowledge that. But that's the one key thing, that sometimes people need a dehumidifier as opposed to a humidifier. So that's one thing. The second thing is maybe you do need a humidifier. Maybe you do, because it is helpful to sort of moisturize your nasal passages, your sinuses, all of that. It feels good, right? But you got to clean the humidifier.
So mold's growing in it.
Not just mold. There's something called humidifier fever. I'm going to do a post on it soon, but you've heard it here, for folks. You've heard it here first. It's called humidifier fever. And basically, viruses and bacteria and mold will grow in the humidifier, and then it just gets sprayed into the air, right? And you're breathing that in, and it causes an inflammatory response and or a spread of a viral illness. And you can get congestion, low-grade fevers, body aches, all from this machine. The issue is a lot of humidifiers are really hard to clean. So you want to make sure if you are purchasing one that the parts are removable, and ideally they're dishwasher safe. So that's another key point. And it doesn't matter how clean you say you are, how clean you keep the home. Like, it doesn't matter. Everyone's humidifier gets disgusting. Even if it's a couple of days, like, you need to change the water every day. You should be using distilled water or previously boiled water. And you want to make sure that it's the parts, they can be taken apart and washed.
Okay, great. What about, so mold and dust mite allergies can, if it's aggravated, lead to asthma, right? How do you recommend treating this? Do you recommend any holistic ways to kind of combat this?
Yeah, for sure. And they don't just lead to, we call it the atopic march. It can first start off as just some nasal congestion, progress to asthma, particularly with dust mite allergy, bad skin symptoms and eczema too, especially in children. So that's another important thing to notice. A lot of times people associate the skin stuff, especially in young kids, with food allergy, but environmental allergies, particularly dust mite allergy, can cause that. In terms of treatment, as I said, the first line of treatment is avoidance of your triggers. So for dust mites specifically, taking your kids' stuffed animals and putting them in the freezer once a week, believe it or not, will kill off the dust mites. So I like with my, kids, I say, oh, okay, it's just like frozen and we're going to be like Elsa and Olaf overnight and we're going in the freezer.
Let it go.
Also kills off exactly viruses and bacteria too. Do that trick also after your kids are sick because they're with their favorite stuff. They're stuffy and they're holding it and they're sick and they're drooling all over it. And then it's again a breeding ground. So put it in the freezer because when you put it in the washing machine, the kids freak out. It's like washing really fast and stuff, and you could mess it up. So put it in the freezer overnight. Um, so avoidance of your triggers, specifically as it relates to things in the home, not having carpeting, or if you do have carpeting, vacuuming once a week with a HEPA vacuum. Another important thing to note is that for dust mite allergy in particular, an air filter won't help. So you're like, oh, well, it doesn't matter. There's no dust in the air because I have an air filter. Dust settles. That's a saying, right? The dust will settle. Dust mites are too big to be suspended in the air. So an air filter won't help for that particular indoor allergy. You want to also wash your sheets once a week on the highest heat setting. You want to have dust mite protective covers. And it's kind of an all or nothing thing. But if you have all of those in place, the dust mites won't be able to grow. So for me, it's let's identify what your triggers are and then let's get those things out of your life.
And then quickly, do people, are there a lot of people out there that might have a dust mite allergy but might not know about it? Like, how do they actually find out?
Yeah. So getting an allergy test, but an allergy test is only as good as what your symptoms are. So for dust mite allergy in kids, sometimes it's bad eczema, and specifically right in the elbow creases on both sides. Sometimes they can get it on their face. And then in adults, it's congestion, and particularly they wake up in the morning with congestion because they're sleeping on what they're allergic to all night, or they wake up and they'll have postnasal drip. That's really bad. And it's present all year round, but it's more prevalent in the winter months when you spend more time indoors. And then you get an allergy test, which you could do either a blood test or go to the allergist, the doctor's office to have that done.
Are you wanting to eat better, but this clean eating thing's just a bit overwhelming? Maybe you just don't know what to cook, or you don't know how to find the clean product swaps at the grocery store. Well, I want to make this simple for you. You can get clean swaps and a anti-inflammatory recipe delivered to your inbox every Saturday by going to thelabelletter.com. Now, when the dust mite allergies are out of control, right? Because maybe people didn't take the steps to avoid it. And then I know you mentioned there was a storm that happens, right? Asthma flares up generally in most people with dust mite allergies that are not maintained or not controlled.
Not everybody, but there are a percentage of people who progress to asthma from their allergies. So it kind of starts skin symptoms in kids, then congestion and sinus issues, and then a percentage of those people go on to develop asthma.
Okay.
And so in terms of treatment, as I said, first line of treatment is avoidance. And then I am a fan of immunotherapy. There are lots of other allergy medicines that are out there, but they're treating symptoms, right? So they're like, oh, let's just make you less inflamed or calm down the release of histamine from your allergy cells, right? That's all the Benadryls and Zyrtecs and all, although I don't never recommend Benadryl, antihistamines and things like that. And then there's nasal steroid sprays. So those would be if somebody just wanted to control their symptoms. And I will recommend that to people whose allergies are not so bad. And they're like, okay, once in a while, I need to be on a nasal steroid spray for a couple of weeks. One thing I'll just say about the nasal steroid spray, so things like Flonase, they don't work as needed. So a lot of times patients will say, oh, the nasal sprays don't work for me. Flonase doesn't work. And I say, how often are you taking it? And they say, well, I try it, once or twice and it doesn't work. It takes 5 to 7 days to kick in. So it's recommended for people who at the height of their allergy season, or if they've got allergies all spring and they know it, I say, great, start it in mid-March and continue it through the end of May. That's tree pollen season, and it'll prevent your allergies from progressing and getting worse. It's not an as needed medicine. Antihistamines like Zyrtec and Allegra and Claritin, those are as needed. So you're like, oh, I know I'm gonna be outside all day and I'm gonna be around all freshly cut grass. I'll take a Zyrtec 30 minutes beforehand and go. But that's for people with kind of mild allergies. For people who are really suffering or have allergies every day, Or if they just want more of a natural option, that's when I recommend immunotherapy. And that's actually giving somebody small amounts of what they're allergic to and then building up their tolerance to it over time. So we test you in the office. We say, hey, you've got tree pollen allergy. Then we literally take the small protein that you're allergic to and we put it into a formulation and either give you an injection or drops underneath your tongue. And you have to be on it consistently for a couple of years, but then you can be cured of your allergies.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so this is something that has to be done in office.
The drops, no. The drops under the tongue, there's also tablets that go under the tongue for certain types of allergies. But the shots are annoying. You have to go in like once a week for 6 months and then once a month after that.
Okay.
But you could be, I recommend it for people who like have a pet allergy or maybe like you're dating someone and you're going to move in with them and you're like, oh my God, this cat, I can't live with it, so, and you like really need to be cured of that pet. Go on the allergy shots. Sometimes there are accelerated schedules, so you can like get to what we call maintenance dose in 3 months, and then once a month you just go for your maintenance. Now there's a little bit of a risk of that, right? We're giving you what you're allergic to, so that's why it has to be done in a doctor's office to monitor you for signs and symptoms of an allergic reaction.
Okay. Now let's talk about healthcare in general because it's super complicated these days, right? And people aren't getting answers that they need. We're the sickest we ever been, the most obese we ever been. What do you think really is needed in healthcare today? Loaded question.
And like, there's a current climate of a whole bunch of change and scariness and things that are happening. At the end of the day, I don't call it healthcare in this country. It is sick care. If you get sick, if God forbid you get a cancer or you have appendicitis and you need a surgery, and there is a very clear or you have diabetes and there's like a very, very clear indication, like I am sick, you can either get a surgery to cure you or a medication to cure you. And we're good at that, right? For the most part, because sometimes we give you medications and then that makes you sicker. We are not good at focusing on preventing sickness and preventing illness. Like where does that happen? And that's why it's a $210 billion wellness industry, because doctors are not taught in medical school. I know because I am one, how to keep people out of the office, out of the hospital, and healthy. And why is that? Well, let's be honest and think about how doctors are paid. It's called fee for service. Fee for service. You are incentivized to do stuff to patients, to find things that are wrong and do more tests. So if we as doctors were incentivized to, hey, here's a bunch of money, we call it value-based care. Here's a bunch of money. Do everything you can to keep these people healthy and out of the office with you, right? All of a sudden, I'd be spending every minute checking. Jen, how are you? You doing okay? Okay, good. Make sure you're getting your steps in. Make sure you're walking. I'd rather keep the money and be incentivized to keep you healthy, but that's not how healthcare in this country
Yeah,
works.
I mean, isn't the system though created where the doctor doesn't even necessarily know how to make them really healthy? Like if someone is treating, if they are just treating stomachs and they give you medication and now all of a sudden you're feeling symptoms like, I don't know, in your arm, like they don't know how to connect the two, right?
Not at all. And that is
So,
another issue,
yeah,
which
how is
is,
that ever actually solved? I don't understand.
well, firstly, there's a few things. One, we've completely depersonalized care. If you think about it, and this is why I was like really interested in like doing home visits and getting into people's homes, because you learn so much more contextually about the individual. If you think about what happens when you go to the doctor's office,
You have like 10 minutes with them.
not even the time. That's a whole other issue. You're stripped down into nothing to become a number. You're in a gown. We don't have any context. So I'm missing like maybe this person's a police officer, maybe this person's a painter. Like I have no idea who you are. And in school, we are taught like to be very objective and everything is just very objective and every single person gets the same set of questions. Like no, you're not treating someone like an individual and you're not looking at the big picture. So it starts at that fundamental level that we're not even contextualizing people and we're turning them into these objective numbers and boxes that we need to check in our electronic medical record in order to make sure that the visit is reimbursed, right? So that's one issue. One layer. The next layer is specialization. And this is why we have a shortage of mental health professionals and a shortage of primary care professionals. And it goes back to this whole fee for service model of like doctors wanting to specialize and getting really, really good at one or two procedures because they know that they can make I mean, look, you've got tons of medical school loans. I don't blame people, but like, let me just do a bunch of colonoscopies. Like, do you really think anybody who was like young, growing up to be a doctor is like, I want to stick scopes in people's butts for the rest of my life? No. But you make a lot of money. So a lot of doctors are like, I'm going to go into GI. I'm going to go into dermatology because I could do a bunch of procedures. I'm going to go into ophthalmology because I could do a bunch of procedures. I'm going to go into cardiology because I can do a bunch of procedures. And it's revenue generating, right? And then what happens is the people that are supposed to be the quarterbacks for care, the primary care doctors, don't get paid. And they just like, we end up just falling short, and we're so siloed and segmented that we don't learn. We forget. We put blinders on and we forget, and we don't learn how to look at the whole person. We learn how to look at a specific organ. It's why I chose allergy immunology, because it's like, wait a second, you know, there are allergy cells everywhere in your body. Your immune system is everywhere. Like, so that I could at least like get more of a holistic approach for patients as opposed to just focusing on a specific organ.
Yeah. Okay. Love it. What about 3 tips for women's health and how to balance hormones, or also 3 things to watch out for that could be indicating that you have hormone issues?
See, Jen, now you're giving me like post ideas. I love this.
I could come up with some posts.
Tips for women's health. I think um, it's, you know, there, like my framework for people is rule out, optimize, and treat. So first things first, and also understanding normal ages, stages, and changes. Like every single woman goes through menopause. We need to better formalize like what exactly should we be would we expect to experience during the perimenopausal period, which is the 10 years leading up to like the hot flashes and stuff like that, right? So, but as it relates to ruling out, not every primary care doctor does this, so you want to make sure that you advocate, but you want to make sure that you have a ferritin level checked. Your ferritin is a marker of your iron stores, and sometimes you might not show up as anemic or iron deficient, but your cells are essentially not getting like enough oxygen and you don't have enough iron, and so it could be missed. So the ferritin level is a key level to look at and make sure that it's normal. And if it's high, it's a marker of inflammation. It's a little secret marker of inflammation. So ferritin level. You want to also make sure that you have your thyroid levels checked, because oftentimes thyroid issues get overlooked. You're constipated, you're having issues with your sleeping, your hair starts falling out. You're like, oh, maybe I just need a vitamin, and it ends up being your thyroid. So that's an important factor. And then the last one are your B vitamins, and specifically your B12. And the problem with a lot of lab tests and laboratories today is like the reference range of what's considered normal versus what makes you feel good is totally skewed. We kind of say like, forget normal when it comes to reference range. You want to actually look at the absolute number. So if your B12 level is less than 400, you may need supplementation. So I would say as it relates to the rule out, you want to make sure that you have at least those 3 lab markers checked before you start to supplement with all this other stuff.
Yeah. Waste money essentially. And it's not really moving the right markers, right?
Yep. And then the second piece is optimize. And optimize, I think that's where the supplements category comes in, but then also how to optimize how you think, how you move, and how you eat. And avoidance of ultra processed foods is incredibly important. We know this, but like, what does that even mean? If you can't pronounce a word in a label, like, don't eat it. Do as much as you can to have like organically sourced, actually knowing the source of where your food is coming from. And what bothers me a lot about that is that it's, not accessible for everybody. And that's a frustrating part of all this.
For sure. Right.
And then the other piece of optimization is thinking about our supplements right for me and which ones are right for me at this stage in my life. But first, you want to rule out a deficiency in vitamins and thyroids and things like that.
Okay, perfect. So, Dr. Tania, where can people find this? It's a home guide. Is that right? Your home guide?
Yes, my Healthy Home
I
ebook.
love
I'm
it.
very excited about it.
Did you
You can
just put
find
it
it.
together?
I did. It's brand new. I didn't even I didn't even start to talk about it on my Instagram yet. So it'll be like another place where you've heard it first.
So I'm going to give you a little tip. What is it called? Your home guide?
Dr. Tania's Healthy Home Guide.
Okay. You should create or go look into buy in the website link for freehomeguide.com.
Okay.
So I've been doing this for 6 years and I have a free morning guide. So when I go on podcasts or I go anywhere, I always tell people, hey, for 3 common foods killing your energy and ruining your day, go to freemorningguide.com. It'll send you a clean protein, bread, and milk. And then they get that free guide and they get in my world.
Cool. Oh, I love
It's just
that.
it's memorable, right? Because when people get off, it's like they don't know where to find the link. They don't know how to spell your
Yeah.
name. People forget your names till they hear it a bunch of times. It's something very generic, like, and they love free
Yeah.
home guide.
Thanks for the tip. I appreciate it. You can find this one on TaniaElliottMD.com. So if you remember my name, just add an MD. How about that? But I'm going to go. It's not free, though. That's the thing.
Oh, it's not free. You gotta do free.
The first
No,
thing
so
ever that hasn't been free. Like, this is like my,
that's okay. So I do a free morning guide, and then it will send them a feel better guide for $7. And then after that, it'll send you, do you want to buy my swap sheet for $97? Do you want to buy my Substack? Do you want to buy all these other things? But I start off free.
Now
Free.
I want to interview you on all of that because I am like I've just been doing a bunch of free stuff and I'm like, okay, now there's so much more I want to give and do, and like I don't know how to do all the nurturing pieces of that.
Yes, it's all about nurturing. That's what it is. It's just all the things. But I appreciate talking to you. It's been so much fun. Thank you so much. And for everyone listening, go follow her on social media and also check out her websites if you're dealing with, all the things, immunology and especially allergies.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Wake Up and Read the Labels. If you like this episode, guess what? We want you to share it. We'd love that. Share it with a friend and leave us a review. You can subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or really wherever you're listening to your podcast. For more information, visit us at wakeupandreadthelabels.com.